The Mount Shasta Weekly Zohar Study Group. I'm very glad and very happy to see you tonight here. And tonight we're at a weekly portion of Emor. Emor literally means in Hebrew, say. And there's a lot to say actually about this portion. It's very significant knowledge and a lot of very important aspects that pertain to what we'll be discussing in the past few weeks. It has to do with our ability to purify ourselves from a place of being more impactful and more effective in our reality. So this is what we're going to be talking about. Now, before I study, I want to just talk briefly about what is our mission, so to speak. What is the mission statement of the Mount Shasta Zohar Study Group? The main teaching of Kabbalah, the purpose of Kabbalah, is to remove pain and suffering in this world, and this is what we're committed to spread through this teaching. But when we talk about removing pain and suffering, we're not just talking about removing the pain and suffering of humans, but also of non-humans. And we strongly advocate for compassionate living and more specifically plant-based nutrition, not from a place of being, fab, on being looking in a certain social stigma, so to speak. It's more from a place of we honor life, and a big understanding of what we are sharing in this teaching is about encourage each and every one of you to take your part in removing pain and suffering, not of only humans, but also of animals. So I hope this teaching inspires you in that regard as well. It is very important to us, and I hope that will be important for you as well if it hasn't been so far. So let's jump into the study. This teaching of Emor is actually, this week is falling in exactly at the middle of the Omer, the counting of the Omer that we started right the day after Pesach, Passover. It's a period of 49 days. But also, it's not only that, but also this middle is not just the middle of the Omer, but we're actually literally the middle of the season of the spring. When we look at this diagram that I shared quite a few times in previous classes, we know that we are in the first quarter of the year that started in Aries, and we're in Taurus, which is the middle, the second sign of the spring season, which are all three elements of the fire. And this week, tomorrow actually, is going to be the full moon of Taurus, which is exactly the middle of, today is the middle of the Omer, tomorrow is actually the middle of the spring season. So when we talk about middle has a big significance in Kabbalah. When we talk about something in the middle, it talks of course about balance, but middle also, what we call the middle column in Kabbalah, it hints on the understanding of what we call the Israelites. We spoke quite deeply about the right column, which is the priest, the Kohen, which represents the right column energy. And we're going to talk about it as well today. And we know about the left column, which is the Levi. And the Israelite is the middle column. So the middle of the Omer is a very auspicious time, not just because we say so, but also because energetically there is some very powerful teachings and wisdom I'd like to share with you that can be very handy to each and every one of us. I hope it's going to be inspirational for you. Now, when we talk about mentioning the priests, the Levites, and Israelites, these are actually acronyms that are very important acronyms. The acronym of Kohen, Levi, and Israelite is Kli. Each first letter of those three names pertains to one letter from the word Kli. Kli means a vessel. And when we talk about what does it mean to have a vessel, when we talk about having a Kli or having a vessel, an effective vessel in this reality is basically a culmination of the three columns, the right column, left column, and the middle column. When we talk about the right column energy, it pertains to the energy of mercy, the energy of sharing, and energy of giving. The left column is what we know the energy of judgment and the energy of receiving. The middle column is the balance between the two. And excuse me if we have background noise because we're recording. We're outdoors today, so if there's a noise, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But hopefully it's going to be quiet pretty soon. So when we talk about understanding the word Kli in Hebrew, which means a vessel, a complete vessel, whether it's a vessel in our relationship, it's a vessel in our business, it's a vessel in spirituality, it's very important to understand those three forces, which we're going to actually dive deeper into the importance. Again, we spoke last week about the Kohen, what is the meaning and what is the importance of the right column energy. So now, if we took a look at our lives, each and every one of us, we usually much great at being associated with the left column energy, which means it's much easier for us to connect to the desire to receive. Each and every one of us, that's kind of the more dominant trait in our personality. At the end of the day, we all want something. There is no person on this planet, even animals, we all want something. So the association with the left column energy is also have to do with the energy of the body. But it's not just about the body, but when we understand the power of the left column energy is very dominant in our lives. It's a natural inclination as human beings. And that's also when we study the story of Jacob and Esav, when we know that Esav was the firstborn. Esav represents the left column energy. So the left column energy, or physicality, or the desire to receive for the self alone, has the firstborn right in this reality. So it's more natural to us to associate ourselves with the left column energy. Okay? Now, some of us are very good at the right column energy. Some of us are very sharing and very giving, very into service, etc. But we know that even when we are too much sharing, too much giving, we deplete ourselves. And when we deplete ourselves of energy or resources or whatever it is that we're giving, there's not much for us to give anymore. So that's the another extreme. Now, the question is, how many of us are great in balancing between the two energies? This is going to be a very key discussion that we're going to talk about today. How do you actually balance between these two forces and become truly effective Israelite? You know, the code they get a name. The name for Israelites is Yashar El, aligned with Source, aligned with Creator. And this is what we really want to implement in this reality, to be effective conduits and effective conductors of energy in this reality. Okay? So we also know that our most important work in this reality is actually to utilize the left column and bind it. The whole story of the binding of Isaac, it's not a historical event. Whether it happened or did not happen, it's not what we're discussing. It's not important whether Abraham wanted to bind his son. Abraham, we know it's a code name for the right column energy, mercy. Isaac is the code name for the left column energy. So really our most important work in this reality is how we can bind the desire to receive for the self alone for the sake of sharing. So we're going to understand another very important aspect about that today, how we actually become much more effective in managing our left column energy. And speaking of left column energy, we know that I spoke about this previous couple of weeks. We are in the energy of the Omer. We know the energy of the Omer, it's a period of 49 days. In this period of time, the energy of the left column, it's very, very strong. I'm not going to repeat why, etc., but it's an energetic cycle that happens every year, and we have the opportunity that we're going to discuss as well, how we actually utilize this to be a great opportunity for us to go to the next level in our lives. So the left column energies right now is very, very prominent, and that's why the Kabbalist advises in this time don't make big decisions, don't sign contracts. Usually people don't get married. The people that understand this energy, that usually they avoid making big mistakes or big decisions. If you got married during the Omer, so I'm not saying it's a wrong thing to do, but usually it's advisable to not making big decisions that can have potential left column energy. So that's kind of what we learn about that. Now, we know that both columns, left column and right column, and the middle column, they represent probabilities. In other words, when I choose to do something in a certain, from a certain decision, whether I decide to do an action for myself, the self-alone, which is left column energy, or I take action for the sake of sharing, in this physical reality, we can only take one path. Whether I take the selfish path, or I'm taking the benevolent path, it can only exist in one linear timeline in this reality. But we know, and even quantum physics proven that as well, whatever choice we make, the other choice also exists in another dimension. So it's still coming into fruition. But in this reality, we're following one path. Now, why we are mentioning that? Because when we choose one of those probabilities, the other probability will materialize, like we said. And in either way, the outcome going to be the same. What does it mean? We know that we study in the Kabbalah that what we know in Hebrew, מחשבת הבריאה להטיב לנבראים, which means the thought of creation is to benefit those who are created. So whichever path we choose in this reality, like we say, by hook or by crook, we're going to end up in the same way. And how is that? Because we know that if we understand that the reason this creation has been created is to bestow goodness on all those has been created. So the outcome is going to be always the same. How we get there, this is what we're going to discuss here. This is really what we want to understand, that we can choose a different path. If this path that we are currently in, or maybe there's a certain more dominant force in this path, we can inject it with what we call the right column energy, the code name of Kohen. Kohen is the code name for the right column energy. Now, we know that our soul is endless. Our soul, by its essence, is endless, it's pure, it's forged by very, very high intelligence that we cannot necessarily even perceive with the human mind. So the process, we are choosing the path, we are actually given a free will. But the outcome that we're going to get there, or what's the final goal, we have no free will. I'm going to discuss the aspect of free will a little bit deeper now. So the question comes to us when we know that we're all going to the same purpose, because we know that the reason a human being has been created, so we have a vessel to receive the goodness of Source. So there is no free will by the definition of our purpose. So the question is, does Source Creator have free will? What do you think?
Source?
Yeah, God, Source, Universe. So when we know that Source created us, it has no free will. Exactly.
It has no free will because it's already chose.
It's only good. We know that Source, the essence of Source Creator is only one, is only good. There is no evil. And then if you ask yourself, so how come we have all those negative things happening on this world? And the reason things happening in what we call the left column energy, judgments, wars, a lot of negative things happening, they're happening because we're the vessels that need to learn how to receive this goodness in this physical reality. But we know that Source Creator itself have no free will. So which brings us to the next question. Do we have free will? As vessels, do we have free will?
No.
Yes and no. We have no free will by the purpose that we've been created. In other words, if we are created as Adam, as a human being, we have no free will. But how we get there, in other words, we have no free will on the destination we're getting. We only have free will how we're going to get there.
Say again? We don't have
we have no free will on the destination we're getting. In other words, let's say you're in Mount Shasta and you need to go to San Francisco. So you know that you're going to be in San Francisco. You can take a train, you can walk, you can crawl, you can be dragged, or you can fly like first class. So how you get there, it's really up to you. That's the free will we have. Okay? So, like we said, the souls that each one of us occupy, physical body, physical embodiment, are eternal, are endless. There was no beginning, there is no end to the souls. But the vessels that we occupy as human beings in the physical reality are what we call the kelim. Okay? Now, like we said, the souls are endless. They are perfect and they whole. And therefore, by default, how we get there with our awareness, it's up to us, or by our karma. And more importantly, what will really define how we get to this, what we call the final goal, is what kind of deeds we do in this reality. And we're going to understand even further what is the mechanism that impacts us to choose certain deeds. What is the thought that actually are coming before the deeds, and do we have free will in the thoughts that we're choosing? Okay, so we're going to go into that a little bit deeper today. Now, let's talk a little bit about what is our perception, what is good. Okay, now we all desire in this life, we want to have good life, right? We want to enjoy this life, we want to have great relationships, we want to have physical comforts, we want to have security, we want to have financial abundance, we want to be fulfilled in our occupation, great communities, families, etc. Now, what do we all desire in this reality? Actually, we want to be, like we said, we want to have a fulfillment. Now, how we get this fulfillment? Now, many of us, subconsciously, we actually programmed, and this is like a scientific fact that has been studied very extensively. If you read the books of Daniel Kahneman, he actually got an economy award for he actually proving how we as human beings, we make financial decision in a certain way, which is very often very, it looks very chaotic, but actually there is a certain order why we choose certain things, because we're motivated to feel good. Okay, so there's, of course, there's different levels of mastery in finances, but he actually studied that, or human behavior, how we operate when have to do with financial decisions. Now, we're not talking here just about financial decisions, but every decision in our lives, pretty much almost every decision, there is an element of programming that operates in the background. Some of us were familiar with the term the matrix, and I mentioned it a few times in the past that the Wachowskis that actually made the movie The Matrix, they studied Kabbalah. It's not a coincidence why they chose the name The Matrix, because there is a certain system that is designed to give us the opportunity to exercise free will. And how does it work? We are bombarded from the moment we are born in our societies, in our families, in our occupations, especially in media, by the food that we eat, by the big pharma, medication, etc. These are all designed to make us think in a certain way. And very often we are so subconsciously already got used to operate in a certain way, to think certain thoughts, we think that we are the originators of those thoughts. So what I would like to invite you to do is actually take a time to question, not to doubt, but really to start dissecting and breaking down your, not just the thoughts, but what is the desire behind the thoughts that we're having. This is what where are we getting here, okay? Now, like we said, we're programmed to one extent or the other to believe in the things that will make us happy. In Western culture, it's very evident that most people believe that if you have certain physical attainments, they will be more happy. Is that the truth? We know it's not the truth, because I had quite a few conversations when I used to live in LA with a therapist in Los Angeles. They make a lot of money by very high-paying clients that come to them, which are very, very wealthy and very physically and materialistically accomplished, but nevertheless miserable. So obviously attaining physical properties, even social status, having more money, having more cars, having more Academy Awards on the shelf, it's not the guarantee to be happy. It's nothing, again, we're not here to define any of those things, but we need to understand that what we've been programmed is what we think is making us happy. It's not necessarily the truth. So I want to invite you to question that, and we're going to see how we can do that, and how we can actually elevate our perception into really to desire the real fulfillment, which will bring us the real happiness, okay? So, by the way, any you have comments, questions, observations online? Nobody? Okay. Now, we know that whether you are familiar with the social studies that have been done, and actually very extensive mechanism to gather information and data from people, we know that human behavior is very predictable. And we know that companies like Facebook, for example, and Google, they constantly harvest data to study people's habits, to study people's behavior. And very often you are, let's say, it's actually not something that is science fiction, what I'm going to tell you right now. Sometimes you're on the phone, you're talking about eating ice cream, and then you go to Facebook and you see advertising for ice cream. And how is that? Because there is a lot of, and actually, what's his name? Edward Snowden, he spoke about how there are certain agencies that actually using social media to gather information about your habits, what kind of movies you're going to, recording conversations. There's constantly gathering on information to learn about people's habits. So, and unfortunately, we become very predictable. There's certain time when people actually will go grab a beer or have a drink. There are certain patterns of behavior that people will accumulate or emulate as a result of watching a certain show. And companies, they actually they already know in each and every season, for example, a clothing company, how do they know how many clothes to manufacture for the next season? Because there are some kind of algorithms that they're actually implementing that they can, with with a certain amount of deviation from for being precise, but it's actually they're very well equipped with the mathematical models that can actually very well predict our behavior. So we think we're very original, but a lot of us, in many ways, what we behave, even the way we talk, the things, our social circles, our habits are very predictable. So I'm not saying that to question your free will, but in a way to reevaluate. That's what we want to do here. Well, that's what we're getting to them. Okay. let's continue. So again, the big question is how much really free will we really have. We spoke about the article of Liberation by Rav Ashlag a few weeks ago, which is highly recommended article to read. It exists in English as well. He said that our only free will in this reality is what kind of environment we choose. And if you think about it, I'm not just talking about physical environments like what neighborhood you live, what city, but also what is the mental environment you expose yourself to? What is the social environment? What kind of books you're reading? Hopefully we'll read some books. It's very, very important to do that because that's how we emulate certain ways of thinking. Okay, so how much really free will we have? And this is really what we want to go deeper today. It all depends on our ability. So basically our ability or our evaluation of being a free human being or the level of freedom, it depends on our ability to rise above our own patterns. Okay, so again, I'm going to repeat that our level of our free will is basically depends or is measured by our ability to rise above our own patterns, provided that we are actually able to identify them. Because if you say, I have no patterns, I just wake up every day at the same time, I have the same breakfast, and I just go in the same route every day, and I have the same coffee with the same person for the last 30 years. I have no patterns. I mean, every day I innovate something new. Of course, humor aside, we want to start to evaluate and take a look at our patterns to see that actually those patterns exist. And there's nothing wrong because we're humans and we're creatures of habit. Nothing wrong with that. But what we want to do, especially this week, is to take the stand to evaluate those patterns and rise above them, to identify them, especially patterns of thought. Okay, this is what we're getting to. This is the most important thing. And this is what the code name of Kohen. Okay, the Kohen is the code name of the one who can rise above the daily routine, above the daily level of thought. And most importantly, the Kohen is the one who can rise above the certain level of desire. We know in Kabbalah that we evaluate our intelligence not by how much we know and how many, whether you know who's the president of Costa Rica or what's the global income of Venezuela, whatever. Our intelligence is measured by our will or by our desire, okay? And the way we increase our intelligence is we want more. And what we want more for the sake of receiving, for the sake of sharing. This is how we evaluate intelligence according to Kabbalah, not by checking your ability to quantify certain things or to measure certain things scientifically, mathematically. This is not the teaching of Kabbalah. And this is really where our liberation or our process towards free will begins, by starting to evaluate our patterns and to hopefully to cultivate a desire to rise above them. Okay? In Hebrew there is a term that says Hakol tzafui ve'arashut netuna, which means everything is predictable, yet we have free will. As like we said before, we know that everything is predictable because our purpose, where we're getting as human beings, is predictable. We know that we've been created by certain intelligence. Our soul has been molded by certain intelligence, so we have no free will by the purpose. Where we're getting with this, with the purpose as human beings, but to have the free will, how we're going to get there. The second part of this phrase, it says, Hakol bidei shamayim, chutz mirat shamayim, which means everything is, all the authority is being given to the upper worlds, except from the awe of the upper worlds, which means we know that in spirituality there is there isn't such a thing mandatory. There is no forcing in spirituality. That's why the term Ten Commandments is false. It's not true. It's not the translation. The Ten Commandments, the true description of that term is the 10 advices. Because if I'm commanding you, I'm taking away your free will, and it's against the teaching of Kabbalah. Each and every one of us, we have within us the soul of Creator, a complete sovereign being. So the idea of mandatory and commandment does not work. So that's why when we say everything is within, or all the authorities in the upper hands, which means there is structure, there is order, there is force that operates in this reality. But it's up to us how we perceive that force, and it's up to us to cultivate the awe. Yir'ah, it means awe, We spoke about this in the last few weeks, and we're going to talk about it today again. Very important term. Now, we say yir'ah, it comes from the Hebrew word re'iyah. How much awe we have towards creation, it depends.
Re'iyah, to see.
Re'iyah, which means to see. Yir'ah and re'iyah is coming from the same letters, just in a different order, which means how we look at this reality or how we perceive this reality will determine our appreciation of this reality. I spoke about this last week. Like, a certain person can look at this flower and he will see one thing. If you invite a botanist or like a person who really understands plants, he will look at the plant from a completely different goggles or different set of eyes. Or if you have an artist looking at those flowers, the artist will see something completely different. So our awe is really the key, but we're going to cultivate in our it's a tool we would like to cultivate to have higher awareness. Okay? So we said that the awe is our awareness and our ability to see beyond our regular perception. We know that, for example, in a relationship, when whether one of the sides or two sides, they are taking things for granted, there is no appreciation in the relationship, they lose awe, and as a result, they lose respect towards each other. And in this case, it's a great example how relationship can deteriorate because there's lack of awe and respect towards each other. So, even more so, our respect and awe to the source that created us. We always talk about that as an essential element in the evaluation of where we are spiritually, how much awe we have towards creation. Okay? And unfortunately, because we are so programmed to operate from the left column mindset, unfortunately, many of us, we are falling into the trap of seeing like how much we're lacking in this reality. When we feel how much we lack, we cannot have awe. That's why so many contemporary coaches and spiritual teachers, they tell you, whenever you feel lack, count your blessings. It always works. Why? Because when you count your blessings and you start to appreciate things, you don't feel lack in your life. You completely shift your perception of reality. Instead of saying, oh, how much I don't have, actually you look and say, oh, well, how much I do have, and you can always come up with a long list of things you can be grateful for. So awe is the counting of our blessings on a very high level. Okay, so it's very important to have that. Now, it is all about our ability to expand. When we talk about having the awe, it's about our ability to expand our awareness and be able to observe our own actions, thoughts, and reactions. If you have any of you practiced a certain meditation, the most important thing in meditation is actually what you do is you observe. You sit and observe. You observe your thoughts. You observe the sensations of the body. You observe your perspiration. You observe things without being attached. So the interesting thing that when you do that, when you observe, there starts to be two parts. There is the I, and there is the observer. So there's already two different eyes present when we do that, because when we cultivate, when we are not mindful, we're not aware, we get angry, for example, we feel jealousy, whatever we are getting into without being aware, oh, I'm angry right now, maybe I can awaken to the fact that I'm angry. So cultivation of the awareness is what we are actually want to emphasize today. So we may not choose how to react and how to feel or think about something, but we can always choose how to observe it. For example, each one of us have different buttons that can be pressed. Some person, they're very sensitive what people think about them. Another person is very sensitive whether they get acknowledged for something they did. It depends on many different things, our astrology, our background, our personality, etc. So this is not something we can change. It can change during time, but it's not something that we really want to focus, but we want to be focused to be aware on those patterns of reaction that we have. In other words, if in the past you used to be angry for 8 hours, something would make you incredibly angry, you get pissed, like really very deeply about something. When you start to cultivate the awareness, you understand that it's something you can actually make it shorter. So maybe in the past you used to be angry for 8 hours, tomorrow you can be angry only for 7 hours. That's already progress, right? Because when you become aware of that, that's the part that you actually say, you know what, I'm aware that I'm right now in a certain mindset, I'm aware I'm in a certain reaction mode right now, but I'm also aware that actually I'm aware of that and I can do something about it. That's the power when we rise above the patterns, when we become aware of them. Okay? Now, when we have the observer, like we said, there is the I. So who is the I and who is the observer? What do you think? Who is the I and who is the observer?
Sorry, I was busy here with something else.
I'm going to repeat the question. When we have, let's say I'm angry right now, and then I'm stopping myself and say, you know, I'm angry right now. So there's, in that moment when I do that, instantly there's two I's. There's the one who is angry, and there's the one who is observing the one who's angry. So my question is, who is the I and who is the observer?
Well, the observer can be the mind. The mind says, okay, I am... Okay, I, it can be the ego.
Exactly. Excellent. Yes.
An observer, it can be a mind that, you know, okay, I'm observing myself angry right now.
It's
right?
the higher self.
Right.
The observer is the higher self, but
when we have ability to observe, we're already in a good place.
When we have the ability.
When, right. But it's just, it's a kind of, we can learn this. It's like a new habit, we can have it.
Absolutely.
Yes, because usually people don't do that. It's because they're angry and they think they are angry and that's it. But when I say, okay, I'm experiencing anger right now, it's different than I'm saying, oh, I'm so angry right now. Because when I'm saying I'm experiencing anger, I'm absorbing that from the other side. So that helps me to actually analyze what's happening with me.
No, not analyze. Not necessarily to analyze,
yeah.
because analyze puts you in even more big over mind turmoil.
Okay.
You just observe.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is very
doesn't mean that I need to ignore my anger.
No,
suppress my anger.
Absolutely not.
Yes, it's
just being aware of it. So if you, when you're angry, say I'm angry. Don't, you know, a lot of, I'm not saying a lot, but there are certain teachings that tell you, you know,
don't be angry.
Give yourself affirmation. I'm happy, but you feel like you want to explode. But you say I'm happy, but who are you lying to yourself? You know, you can lie to somebody else, but some people, they lie to themselves, but eventually, you know the truth. So really repressing is not the place. I mean, you know, it shouldn't, like, Maya, I think the dogs want to put them.
Well, they are angry right now.
No, they're just...
No, they're just playing.
They're just playing on something. So the point is not saying to repress those things, is to really to become aware of them and to see that when they're actually present, and there's something we can do about them, to transmute them. That's what we're getting into. So we said that the I is the lower self and the observer is the higher self. So the more we cultivate this ability, we're not creating a split personality, God forbid. That's not what I'm suggesting. Actually, we're creating a higher observation or point of view on the lower self. We actually start to acknowledge that we do have a lower self, and each and every one of us have, because we've been so programmed by many different reasons, many different backgrounds, social programming, families, etc. We have that desire, and like we said, we are human beings. The desire to receive is part of our nature. Okay, so there's nothing to repress or to feel bad about, but actually to acknowledge and to recognize. Now, as long as we act automatically, like we respond without even thinking about it, without self-awareness, we're like robots, basically, with no free will. The less awareness we have, the less free will we have. The more awareness we have, the more free will we have. The more free will we have, because we can understand, we can observe our mind, our actions, and where we are in a certain moment, and then we can choose what are we going to do about it. Whether we're going to continue in a certain, if that's a low frequency vibration, a desire or behavior, we can choose whether we're going to, how we want to stay there or not. That's the freedom we have. Okay. Now, let's continue. Now, we spoke about how many companies make a lot of money from collecting data about our behavior. A lot of companies also make a lot of money from keeping us miserable. And they're making money by promising us this pill or that drink or that herb or that this or that will make us feel better in a certain moment. But the more we rely on those outside sources, the less free will we have. So if you have a certain habit of being depressed in a certain time of the day, certain time of the month, of the week, and you rely on something from the outside that will pull you out of your negative or your low frequency, depression, anger, whatever it is, anxiety, the less free will we have. And that's also choice. But also you have to acknowledge that you're actually choosing not to have free will. That's another realization I want to suggest, that if we are in a place that we are relying on a certain thing to uplift us, without it we don't feel uplifted, we have to acknowledge that we're choosing that thing. There's nothing wrong about it, but also we need to understand that we can choose to take the sovereignty in our own hands, to take the power to realize that we actually can create that. So that's very another empowering teaching that the Zohar is sharing with us this week. So when our low vibrations, when we feel negative, depressed, sad, etc., and we not only feel like that, but also we think in a certain low vibration frequency, when we identify, so let's come to a point where actually we can identify them. So you can see right now, I'm angry, I'm depressed, I have no energy, etc. So the point is, like, if we can identify that, where are those low vibrations coming from? So these actually have a name in Kabbalah. It's called the Sitra Achra. The Sitra Achra literally means the other side. What other side? The left side. Now, why we have the left side, I'm not going to go back into the principles of Kabbalah, but we know that the other side is part of this reality that allows us free will. It's our trainer in this reality. We cannot eliminate the other side. It's part of this system. What we can do is we can start to identify it and start feeding it. There is a certain mechanism that the other side works by, and if we don't recognize its presence, we keep feeding it. It's like if you've done parasite cleanse, you know that if you want to, the first thing you do to eliminate parasites, you stop feeding them. Parasites love sugar, for example, so you want to eliminate parasites, stop eating sugar, stop drinking alcohol, stop eating certain foods that feed the parasites. That's the first step. But nevertheless, you need to recognize that there is a presence of the parasites, whether it's in the physical body, but also energetically. So we want to recognize. In Hebrew, it's called hakarat hara. It's the recognition of the evil. Now, what is evil in Kabbalah? It's ra. It's an acronym, ratzon atzmi. The simple term to describe evil is selfishness. Okay, so that's how you start to recognize that. And the selfishness expresses itself feeling depressed, feeling angry, all those lower frequency vibrations that each and every one of us, we experience them to one degree or the other. But maybe if until now we were not aware of them, today maybe we can start making the decision to start being aware and to recognize them, and to make a decision how long we're going to dwell in them. And actually there's things we can do to make us feel better almost instantly. There's some things we can do, not relying on magic pills actually, or third-party devices like we say. And like again, what we call the Sitra Achra, the other side gives us the opportunity to be the transmuters of energies, to transmute dark to light, bitter to sweet. Otherwise, if we don't have those two opportunities, or we don't have the left column energy, we have no free will. And that's part of the game, so to speak. Okay? Now, how do we do that? What's the effective way? The way we do it is using the power of the Kohen. Like we said, the Kohen is the code name for the right column energy.
Priests.
So the priest. Kohen means a priest in Hebrew, but again, I'm not a priest. You're not a priest. We're not priests. Very unlikely that anybody watching those videos are actually priests in a temple. When you talk about being a priest or Kohen, is to be a force of right column energy. In other words, we spoke earlier. The first thing to do is to identify that those left column or those low vibration or desire to receive for the self alone energy exists, and then we tap into the energy of the priest, of the Kohen. How will we do that? Now, we all know that it is much easier for us, like we said, to act towards selfishness. It's more natural to do. If you wake up in the morning, it's much easier for you to say, no, I don't feel like getting out of the bed. Or if you make a commitment to go to the gym for the first time to start losing some weight, it's much easier not to go to the gym. Why? Because we're so identified with the consciousness of the body. It's much more natural to us because we're associated so much with the body. So when we want to start using the right column energy, the Kohen, we want to know that it is, first of all, it's much more challenging. We have to put effort into that. And there is actually a very advanced and very developed science today. It's called neurotheology. It's the science field that is also known as spiritual neuroscience. There is actually science been able to measure how a brain reacts when we are in spiritual bliss, like when we are in ecstasy, natural, from meditation, from like feeling love, when a mother gives birth, there's a natural process in the brain that produces certain wavelength, and that's actually been measured as activity that happens in the front lobe of the brain. On the other side, the same science, the neurotheology is also able to measure when we're in low vibration, which means we can change our physical phenomena instantly with our thought. We know that when we're in stress, when we're in anxiety, when we are depressed, it affects our body. It affects our blood pressure, it affects our perspiration, it affects our heartbeat, and we know that also science has been able to prove it beyond any shadow of a doubt that a person that is clinically depressed for a very long time, of about 6 months or more, their immune system begins to collapse, and it can cause cancer, because cancer is when our immune system collapses. So there is actually a physical materialization in our body that results from our mindset. That's actually been measured many times by science. Now, one second. So another term that we're also very familiar is that what we call the fight or flight. When we are in that survival mode, or we think that something has been threatened in our lives, and again, it produces certain physical sensations, and we feel like we need to protect something, like something is in danger, and we are fighting for survival. Now, we know that there is a very basic difference between humans and animals. The difference is, first of all, what is the common between both of us? Both humans and animals, we have the instinct or the desire for physical survival. This is our primal instinct, is to maintain our physical survival. Now, animals only have physical survival. Humans have on top of that ideological survival. In other words, not only that we want our physicality to survive, we also want our ideas to survive. And very often you may encounter people that will fight you to death just to make sure, like I'm not talking just literally, but also like physically, to make sure that their ideas will survive. And we've seen that with many very extreme examples of fanatic religion, that people will go and will kill somebody else because they think that their idea about God or creation is the right one.
Yeah, by the name of God, still there is a war and killing.
Yeah, many times. So we know that. So humans, we have also the ability, as opposed to animals, is actually to sustain our ideological survival, and that becomes very, very tricky, because when we become identified with our ideas or beliefs, it's very problematic. No, of course, there are some beliefs that we actually want to harness, that they're actually very beneficial to us. For example, the belief that the Zohar is a very powerful tool, which it is. If you study Zohar, or if you decide not to study the Zohar because you believe that it has no value for you, so I would say that this is not a very beneficial belief, because you should at least give it a try, like I did at the beginning. I was very skeptical until I actually started to dive deeper and to realize that there is something there that's very beneficial to us.
Well, now we know that we don't have to believe that Zohar is working, because Zohar is really, there is a power.
Certain, that becomes certainty.
Yeah, because you experience certain things after starting study.
Yeah.
Good and not so good, but still you experienced.
But the most important thing is we learn in the Kabbalah, there's a term called Na'aseh v'nishma. Right. First we're here, and then we do, and then we're gonna listen why, and we're gonna check it. Which means I'm gonna talk in a couple minutes about the difference between knowledge and certainty, or emunah, or faith, because faith is very kind of wishy-washy term. But it's the difference between emunah, which is a combination of two words, emun, which means trust, which means also certainty and belief. It's not just faith, like a religious term. So there's a very difference between the two. And what I'm talking about is when we talk about the science of neurotheology, we can measure certain processes within the body as a result of a spiritual process. And how do we attain that spiritual process? It depends on how much effort we're willing to put into rising above our patterns. I'll give an example. I never meditated until the age of 30. Never in my life did any meditation. And then I decided at some point that I actually want to invest the time and to evaluate the way I think, to take another look, to really to dissect, to see who I am. In a certain way, I feel like there's something that has been formed after 30 years. But I was like, I'm ready to reevaluate who is the I. Then I went to meditate for 10 days. meditation called Vipassana, which I speak quite a lot because it's
silent
meditation for 10 days that you meditate 10 hours a day. It's very demanding, but nevertheless, you're going through a process of what they call in Sanskrit, bhanga. Bhanga means dissolution.
Yeah.
Dissolution of what? The dissolution of the illusion of the Maya, the dissolution of the self. Because you're going so deep to the level of mind and body, you actually you cultivate sensitivity, especially the first 3 days are very difficult. Because you do certain work in the first 3 days to start taming the beast, because the mind is so tricky. But if you don't take the time to observe the mind, and you can only do that if you actually take some time off from your cell phone, from your family, from your environment, to go somewhere else to minimize the distractions. So you can really focus on really see who you are and to reevaluate.
First, you have to lose what you think you are.
Yeah.
Then
To be open to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's happened to me also in Vipassana. Yeah. I lost everything who I thought I am, and that was scary. That's so scary. It's like a puzzle. All the pieces of puzzle disappeared.
Yeah.
However, then it's a beautiful experience.
And unfortunately, a lot of people actually are going through this experience when they do certain medicines. Like they go do, some people have done ayahuasca and they experience that. But from what I've seen many documentaries and actually talking to people, the experience can be so traumatic because you don't have the tools how to actually, you don't necessarily know where you're going. You're not equipped how to go back from this experience. When you do meditation in a super safe environment and you have the tools, you can go there much more safely. I've seen also people who flipped. I was actually in certain meditation. Some people they went nuts. So it's not for everybody. Because sitting in 10 hours a day, it's very demanding. You take breaks, etc. But it's really incredible process. And I'm not vouching for that particular meditation. I'm saying whatever meditation you find effective to you, go for it.
Yeah, even going to the nature.
Go into nature. Just be willing to really to reevaluate your thoughts, your desires, even your perceptions about who you think you are. It's beyond everything because we're so identified with our what we call the I. I think the light. We should.
I will check.
Yeah, check the light. So it's a very important process of reevaluation, and even more so we have it in this week. We're going to see why it's even more critical for this time of the year. I think it's from there. Okay. So we spoke about ideological survival versus in addition to physical survival. Now we cannot avoid from having ideological survival because we're human beings and we constantly cultivate ideas and we cannot live without having ideas. But we want to cultivate the right ideas or the ideas that will produce better fruits that will align us closer to source. That's what the kind of ideas we want to cultivate. We cannot eliminate having the mind of ideas. There's nothing wrong with that, but we want to connect to the right ideas, and on the other hand to identify the negative or the selfish or non-beneficial ideas that are limiting each and every one of us our own progress. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to achieve greatness. Doesn't matter what religion you are, what age you are, what occupation you are, each and every one of us by default are forged from the same source. So we're here to achieve greatness. There isn't every question about it. The question is only how we are choosing to attain that. Are we choosing the path of misery, or are we choosing the path, putting some effort because we came here to do work in this reality?
I don't think nobody's actually choosing consciously the path of misery.
Well,
I mean, maybe subconsciously or some from past life, but usually they want to feel good. People want to feel good. Right?
Some people believe that if you suffer in this reality, that you attain more. There's some spiritual beliefs.
It's already religious.
It is, but nevertheless, people choose that because they think or they believe that choosing that path of misery will give them the attainment they desire. And Kabbalah says it is a brainwash. Like we said before, I said earlier, there is very long history to humanity of brainwashing. But unless we identify, we not recognize that actually it's a truth, we can never rewash our brain and to start really to clean it from all the old programming. I mean, it's a process of rewashing our brain to remove all the dirt and all the garbage. We all have in our DNA. It's going even in our DNA because some people believe that they have genetic disease, and we know by the studies of Bruce Lipton, for example, an amazing scientist and researcher. And he has actually proved that we can reprogram our DNA. So nothing is really set in stone in terms of what lineage we're carrying, but we want to identify what is so, and we know that they have the tools to transmute it. Okay? So like we said, we have to be willing to put some effort. That's really the condition. If we're not willing to put the effort, it's not going to happen just by magic pills. So it doesn't work like that. Now, how do we activate the frontal lobe? Because like we said, we have the what we call the reptilian brain, the lower brain, that it occupies part of our head, our brain, and puts us in a mind of fight or flight. How we activate the frontal lobe is using the power of imagination. It's also been measured by the science of neurotheology that when we are in a state of bliss, we can visualize. It's literally like you have inside your head, there is a movie projector. And that movie projector projects a different reality on your frontal lobe. That's why humans, we have forehead. It's like the screen. Animals don't have forehead. If you see like in their eyebrows, above the eyebrows, it goes like that. Only humans have a forehead. We have the ability to imagine. Animals cannot imagine.
So we actually have a screen there.
We do have a screen. The question is what kind of movie we project on the screen.
Well, yeah, who is holding the remote control?
Who's the director, who's the screenwriter, who's the main actor, etc. So we want to understand that the ability to choose the movie consciously, it's a high skill. I'm not saying it's something that we can do immediately. Nevertheless, that's what we talk about the Kohen. The Kohen is the one who can actually choose the movie. What kind of movie? That movie that makes us happy, makes us fulfilled.
How we can be a Kohen?
That's what we're studying. That's what we're studying. First of all, to understand we have the option. Because maybe some people believe, I have this reality, what can I do about it? There's nothing I can do about it. Some people say, yeah, I want to do something about it, but it seems impossible. Kabbalah says, you can do it, and it is possible. You have support system, and you have powerful tools. That's why the whole reason we study the Zohar, so we can create the movies that we desire. No one says it's easy, but it's possible. And the more certainty we cultivate emunah, the more we can attain those tools, not just to be fulfilled, but actually to fulfill our destiny, why we're here for, what's the purpose we're here for. Right? We're here to enjoy. So that's really the main purpose, to understand that we're actually here to enjoy this creation, but also to be a force of benevolence in this reality. That's the Kohen.
And emunah, people sometimes, we all create sometimes emunah, sometimes from difficulties. Because sometimes it's so hard and so difficult, we are going to this space that we don't have choice to have a choice of emunah, because it's just, I'm tired of it, so I'm choosing to have a emunah, because the way I didn't have before emunah. It wasn't working. So by choosing, first of all, to have emunah.
Yeah, some people unfortunately choose by taking their own lives because they feel that they have no choice. That's the other extreme. But we want to instill hope in each and every one of us, because everybody went in the past or maybe now going through some kind of challenge or difficulty. Each and every one of us have something that we want to overcome. And the first thing is to not to see how it's going to change right now, but have the faith that it's possible. Because the faith, or the emunah, is the belief system that we're recreating, but not creating from blind imagination or blind faith, but creating out of connection with certainty that this is the plan of creation.
Well, a few weeks ago, you wrote from the Zohar, which is it's amazing, and I think we should mention this quite often, that in the manual, in our DNA, it must happen. I'm talking about the dreams, to complete dreams, to live our high purpose. It's written in Zohar that it has to happen. So, the only reason it's not happening because we give up too early, or from, So it's so important to repeat this again and again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's important to mention that. Yeah.
It's actually to say we have this in our DNA, the Zohar says, that our dreams, our life purpose, meant to be
manifested.
Manifested.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, when and how, well, whatever. That's not the main thing, because that's the pain and suffering. When and what. Yeah.
When you know that you have dreams, you should ask yourself who gave you those dreams, right? Because you can say, you can say that's social programming, but not necessarily. Like if you are, let's say you were born and from very young age you had certain abilities, some certain qualities that were not evident in your environment. Who gave you those qualities, right? Source gave you to those qualities, because Source wants you to pursue those special gifts that Source gave you.
Right.
How in what timeline it's going to happen, it's not necessarily up to us. But another thing we're getting to see how we can go beyond. Oh, the light again. How can we go?
Too much energy here.
Good energy.
Good.
It's how we can go actually beyond the duality, because the duality is what makes us creates the misery to us. Okay. We want to see what the definition of duality according to the Zohar. So we said that our ability to project our mind or our desired movie is of course, if it's a good movie, is what really uplifts us and actually create hope in our reality. Two people can be in the same situation. One person can project a mental picture of very negativity. Doesn't matter where we are, whether they are in the slums of India or they're in Beverly Hills. Doesn't matter where we are. Two people in the same situation can have a completely different movie they will project. One person will project a positive, one will project a negative movie, and that will affect their reality.
It depends on their belief systems.
Their belief system, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I would love to mention in this term what Tony Robbins says. Always, it's so. I mean, Zohar says this all the time, but Tony Robbins managed to say it so perfectly and simple when he says, if we change the word, people say, it's happened to me. It's happening to me, whatever happens, tragedy or good. He said, change it and say, it's happening for me.
That's
it's happening for me. That's changed all the suffering and pain.
Yeah.
See, it's actually misery and being a victim because it's happening to me, and the other one is happening for me.
Yeah.
That feels okay. That's probably the lesson for me to grow.
Yeah.
So it's totally Kabbalistic, totally from Zohar, and thank you, Tony Robbins, to just so beautifully describing it.
Yeah, Tony Robbins is somebody I really appreciate a lot, and actually he is one of example I'm going to talk about a little bit later today.
Yes.
He's a great example and very inspiring human being. So thank you for reminding talking about Tony Robbins. Now, in that regard, what makes a successful mentor or like teacher like Tony Robbins is that person who is able to uplift the other person and encourage them. That's what really makes a successful mentor. If you can take a person, somebody comes to you to seek your help and your advice, you're not giving them the magic pill, but you give them the ability to change what kind of movie they're projecting. That's really what makes you. So if you're in the field of being a mentor or a coach, that's the kind of quality you embody. If you're a successful one, obviously you're able to give the other person hope. That's a great skill to have.
Yeah, he's been asked, what draws you, how you can handle, for so many years working so hard. What's really how you've been driven? And Tony Robbins says, I'm just obsessed to be and help and change people's lives.
Yeah.
So how powerful is that? It's not just he's doing because of just, it's not just his mission. He's obsessed of it. So, great example.
It's a great commitment.
And it's just a good obsession.
Yeah, good obsession.
Good addiction, I would say, right?
I can say I'm almost obsessed. I'm not quite obsessed, but I'm almost obsessed to share this information with you. Really, I'm doing this with a lot of excitement because nobody really asked me to do that. I did that on my own accord because it's such a profound. It's such a profound gift to have this Zohar in your life.
I have to mention, and you work so hard for this
every
process,
week, every time.
Because you're so busy doing your work and creating and being an artist. However, you stop everything and you just study so hard, and really I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Because it's not obvious. It's
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a great passion for me to share this because I have I'm not getting anything from you besides the fact that you are enjoying this teaching. So that's
you
for
are
me.
Getting so much.
I'm getting from so much because when I know, usually I have more people online than people actually here in physically in Mount Shasta, but it's not important to me. But really what matters to me that people are getting some benefit. I get a lot of feedback from people. Many times people write me or people call me and they tell me when they heard something or there was something that completely clicked in them. So that's for me. So it makes me very happy just for that because the same thing is doing for me.
Yeah.
So that's for me. That makes me very happy to hear those things.
Yeah, I would like to announce that we're going to have a really beautiful place very soon.
Very soon, I will
to have more
in Mount
students.
Shasta.
Really gorgeous place. So
it's coming very soon. Yeah. So it's in the works. So soon you can come to Mount Shasta and to, if you want to enjoy some, especially in the season, it's going to be a wonderful opportunity.
Vegan hotel.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about what time is it, by the way, Maya?
We'll check. It's 9.
It's 9. Okay, we have more hour. Okay. So the condition to a positive thinking and a positive mind is a daily maintenance. Now, it's not something that is common. It's not obvious. Like if you want to maintain health, you have to maintain certain discipline in your life. What kind of food you eat every day. You have to maintain a certain discipline and certain maintenance, like we said. Like even in relationship, I have to bring my wife flowers every few days.
You don't
otherwise,
have to. You want to.
I don't have to. I want. What I'm saying is, relationship, you have to maintain the relationship. It's not some like a third-party entity that just on its own. Unfortunately, some people, they experience that in a relationship, when they stop maintaining that, becomes, like we said, obvious. It's just fading away because there is no maintenance by one or both parties.
Well, in Mount Shasta, it's so easy to bring flowers to your wife because everywhere you walk right now, it's
yeah.
beautiful.
Not in the winter, I can just bring snow usually. In the winter, I can bring you like a bouquet of snow.
Yeah, even the flowers on your table, it's just from our neighborhood.
Yeah, lilacs. You cannot smell this, the amazing perfume from these flowers. It's incredible. Yeah. So we talk about the daily maintenance, and ideally when we talk about the daily maintenance is like we're engaged in this wisdom. And if you're not engaged, I highly recommend that you actually start even spending 5 minutes a day studying Zohar. It is true magic. It is. I mean, it's amazing how it works. Not necessarily we understand how it works, just like I don't understand how my cell phone works. It just works. I just use it, but I know it works. Same with the Zohar, it's a technology.
Just by knowing, when we study Zohar, we are not in third-dimensional physical world.
Exactly.
We are going above physicality. That already helps.
Zohar, thank you for mentioning that, Maya. The Zohar is connection to Bina.
Well,
so we know that we live in a system of the 7. This is the kind of the reality we live. But when we talk about Bina, this is where the Zohar takes us to Bina.
Wow.
Bina is the energy storehouse of the universe. We know that we have certain cosmic or windows of time when we connect to Bina, like Yom Kippur, like Purim. On Shabbat we connect to Bina at certain times of the new moon, etc. But studying the Zohar, it's constantly connection to Bina.
It's a good reminder.
It's a very important reminder. So if you're not in the habit, I highly recommend you do that. Even if you don't believe, just give it a shot and see.
Yeah, for me it's just to go to my little spaceship and just go.
The Zohar spaceship, yeah.
Okay, we gotta build that.
Yeah.
The Zohar spaceship.
It's already outside parking.
Yeah,
so,
we just arrived with this, right?
Yeah. So we said like the condition to maintain that is daily maintenance. And if we, on the other hand, on the opposite side, if we spend more time judging others, draw energy from judging ourselves and low frequency, that's the opposite of maintenance. So if that was the habit until now, maybe it's time to reevaluate the habit. And this is really the essence of our training in what we call the 49 days of the Omer, to assist us towards our own exodus from Egypt, which is our liberation. We know that when we study about the 49 days of the Omer, which I'm going to talk a little bit deeper in the Zohar, it's a process of training. It's more intense time where there's more left column energy, which means there is more energy of judgment in the universe. However, when there is more left column energy, we have more opportunity to train. We have more opportunity to transmute. So if you want to be a great karate or kung fu fighter, you have to constantly train yourself. You cannot just sitting and just reading books about kung fu and just be watching kung fu movies. You actually have to train yourself. So this 49 days that we're going through the Omer, these are 49 days of going above certain elements that have been operating in our background of the subconscious mind, what we call low vibrations, negative thoughts, self-judgment, guilt, shame, blame, all those things that maybe we have not noticed before, but in the Omer, they present themselves a certain way. If we don't notice that, we're missing the point. But the only reason we're given those opportunities so we can rise above them and to be really more liberated human beings, each and one of us in our own level. It's all about liberation.
We get some nice off on this Saturday night. We have a
Lag B'Omer, yeah.
So we're going to have a good energy boost.
Energy boost. The 33rd day of the Omer, It's a very powerful day because that's the day that Rabbi Shimon ascended from physical reality. And we know that when a very high soul, and Rabbi Shimon is the author of the Zohar, we know that when a very high soul ascends from this reality, that particular time creates an imprint in the universe. And the reason Rabbi Shimon chose that particular day to live Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, is because he wanted to give us an energetic boost. Rabbi Shimon, he was a very, very high soul. He had such a power. He overcame the energy of death. His awareness was such a powerful soul. Like, there were other masters as well that they overcame death, but Rabbi Shimon is the channel that brought us the gift of the Zohar. So his day of ascension, the 33rd day of the Omer, on this Saturday night, is a powerful opportunity to draw extra light, to connect to this high soul, to help us in our work. You know, these souls that come here, they don't just come here to attain their own upliftment. They come here because they want to help humanity to ascend. So I think each and every one of us can use some of the light of Rabbi Shimon on this Saturday night. So yeah, thank you for reminding about Lag BaOmer. Thank you. So we spoke about the Lag BaOmer. It's a very critical time, and if we understand how to work with that, then we can strengthen our Kohen, the right column. Okay. Now let's talk about. I would like to distinguish between our external, how we perceive reality, because we talk about a lot about belief system, etc. Now our belief systems also are the operating system that defines how we interact with reality. Now we have two main perceptions of reality. We have perception of physical reality, like I'm sitting here, there's a table, I see things, I feel things with my five senses, or the sixth sense that we also perceive as what we, how we perceive things, how our intuition, etc. Now that's the physical our perception, but also we have the inner reality. So these are two very distinct perceptions. Now, usually the physical reality is what we attribute to the left column energy. The body, the desire to receive, it's the left column energy, the physical reality. The right column is our inner reality, kind of in a very broad division. And usually we usually know the difference between these two, the physical reality, or our desires, physical reality. For example, I want to eat right now, or I want to rest, I want to have sex, or all different things that have to do with physicality. Usually they are very distinct desires that operate with the physical body. On the other hand, we have our inner spiritual wants, physical, spiritual desire. For example, give me an example of spiritual desire that you have.
I want to learn more Zohar, go to
wisdom, like
more wisdom of Zohar.
Okay, excellent. Yes. So the desire to attain wisdom is a spirit. It's not a physical desire; it's a spiritual desire. When you talk about attaining wisdom, there's going to be many different expressions to that. Like you want to attain wisdom because there's a purpose why you want to attain wisdom. That we're going to get now right to the second level.
Pleasure.
Let's see.
Spiritual pleasure.
Now let's see what. Now you dug yourself a hole. It's a good hole, but we're going to learn how to get out.
You're here to hold my hand. I'm okay.
So there's a distinction between the physical desires to the spiritual desire, or inner desire, external versus inner desires. Now, the attribute of the physical want is usually associated, like we say, with the what we call the animal nature, because animals have the same desires. When you talk about you want to have food, rest, sex, shelter, etc., animals want the same thing. So these are what they call the animal wants. That's the physicality. Now, however, when we talk about inner desires or inner attainment, even within those, within the spiritual wants, there is also the distinction between higher wants and lower wants. In other words, when you say I want to attain wisdom because I enjoy it, we're going to see that there's a certain way that we can even have lower spiritual wants or higher spiritual wants.
Okay, and I'll tell you the higher one.
Okay.
From my understanding.
Okay, redeem yourself.
Right away. No, seriously. It's just a reminder. You just reminded me. Thank you. The higher is actually simple. Quite simple. It's get closer to Creator.
Excellent. Yeah.
Simple.
Thank you. So I'm done with the class. Thank you. No, this is really where we're getting to. Yeah,
really?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the highest.
Excellent. So,
but however, when we study in the beginning, if it's Zohar or any other spirituality, in the beginning, it's kind of pleasure. We want to satisfy that pleasure.
Of course.
Later on, when we grow more, then we understand what's the pleasure is really. To getting closer to Source, becoming one with Creator.
There is a little bit risk when we evaluate things by pleasure, because pleasure is measured by physical senses.
Right.
So if we say, oh, I don't feel right now the ecstasy or the bliss, so it means da 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 da.
Well, when I say physical, spiritual pleasure, I'm talking about fulfillment, because fulfillment, it's kind of, feels good. Physically too, not just...
It's a very important point, because we're going to discuss the difference between knowledge and emunah, or certainty and faith. Okay, there's big difference. But I think it's important what you say right now. So, like we said, even within our inner spiritual wants, there is also the distinction between higher ones and lower ones, and we need to be able to see the difference between the two. Because if you see, oh, I have spiritual desire, I want to learn Zohar, very nice, good. But the next question we ask, how do we make the distinction that we're getting to? The way we make the distinction is by recognizing the purpose to which we desire those inner attainments. Which means, if you say I want to feel pleasure, that's one way. But if you say I want to attain this wisdom because I want to share with others, because I want others to be happy too, because I want to eliminate pain and suffering to the world, I want to share with people information that will help them shift their perception of reality, which will result in different actions toward themselves and others. So the way you distinguish, and we're not saying right or wrong, whatever reason you study, if you study Zohar, excellent, I'm not questioning anything.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, the next step, once you start to study, then ask yourself what purpose you do that.
כמו בעברית שאומרים, גם אם לא עושים את זה לא לשמו, בסוף זה הופך לשמו.
Yes and no, not always. Which means, what you said is basically, when you do it not for the sake of whatever reason, you do it and then you fake it until you make it.
Right.
Not always.
I'll give you an example, just a certain Kabbalah center that lots of celebrities coming, right? And many people, I was there, so many people came, oh, I want to see that, I want to see Madonna, I want to see, they specifically came for that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, obviously when I met them after 5 years, still in the Zohar, coming to the Kabbalah and Zohar, I was like, oh, you still here? She said, yeah. I first of all came for Madonna.
Because of Madonna.
Now I'm coming because I understand what's
came for Madonna, I stayed for Rachel.
No, seriously, it's happened so many times.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the beginning, we're all coming for, we want something. We have to want something. If because it's hard. It's not easy to explore this information.
But like you said earlier, sometimes we come to a certain point in our lives, we're so on the ground, we've been so defeated, or we went through so much pain and suffering that we had enough.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, let's give it a try. Some of us come to this point as well, which is nothing wrong. But what I'm talking here is, once you start to evaluate your wants. For what purpose? It's a very important question to ask yourself. Why? Because when you ask this question, you can expand your kli, your vessel. Because if you just come to have pleasure because you enjoy it, it's wonderful. But there's so much you can reach in your study. Like, I used to study because I enjoy the study. But when I decided to share with others, there was an element, I'm not just doing this because I enjoy it, because I want you to enjoy it too. So when I make the commitment to share this with you, it demands from me a different level of investing my time, and I have to understand more what I'm actually talking about.
So I have a question. Now when you share with others, do you enjoy more or less when you used to do only for yourself?
Of course, more, much more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you answered that.
Yeah, exactly.
The
sharing gives a lot of enjoyment. Exactly.
Yes.
It's like, if you study, let's say you are an amazing cook, you're an amazing chef, but you just do it because you enjoy to eat your own food.
And I eat just myself.
You just eat by yourself. But what difference is when you start to make the food for others, when you see other people enjoy your food, especially it's high vibration food and healthy, gives you so much pleasure. Same thing. So the sharing is coming, can come naturally, but if it's not naturally, when you ask yourself what purpose you do this spiritual, that spiritual work, when you ask yourself, that's when it makes you committed to do more actions of going in an outflow. That's the one you ask those questions. Now, we can pursue wisdom because like we say, we enjoy it, like you say. or because there is a reward. Like we say, oh, I study this because every 2 days when I study, I get so blissed out, or that's another reason. Nothing wrong with that. That's the reward. Or you do it because it makes you smarter. You say, oh no, I study Zohar because my IQ is going 5 points every week, so that's why I study Zohar. That's another reason. That's fine. And most of us, we pursue our spiritual attainment because of social external programming. A lot of people, they study because, you know, certain circles, people study certain things of spirituality when maybe it's some Jewish studies, maybe some Christian, some Buddhist. You know, in a lot of circles, for example, there's like yogic teachings. In certain, I remember I was living in LA. There were some certain areas that was very popular to go to certain darshan. Darshan, it means it's actually a Hebrew word, lidrosh. It's an inquiry. Like you sit, it's a discourse. So in some areas it's the darshan. Some areas is go listen to the rabbi or listen to the priest, etc. That's another reason to do it. But I want to you ask yourself for what purpose, and to start to reveal yourself why you're doing that. And then when you ask yourself, you can make some adjustments and you can elevate your desire and for what purpose you're doing that. Not to say this is right or wrong. If you do it already, it's a wonderful thing. So when we realize that the higher attainment is to extend, is to deepen and clarify our own connection to source, this is really what we want to get. Like you said earlier, you do that because even if I'm sharing this, I'm doing this because it also helps me to go a little bit closer to my connection to source, all there is. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the relationship with the creator of this universe. Why we celebrate Shabbat every Friday night? We light 2 candles, because one candle represents us, the vessels, the other candle represents source. It's like a wedding. So it's all about deepening the connection with source, which is a wonderful thing. It's a connection of love and awe and respect. So for that purpose, we have the guidance. That's why when we decide we want to deepen our connection to source, that's why we have the guidance, the instruction, also known as the Torah. Torah means in Hebrew guidance and instruction. The reason we have the Torah is to deepen our connection to source. Not to make us robots, not to make us religious, to make us connected to source. Period. That's the reason what it's for. And to show us how to do that. There's a path to do that, if we choose the path. Yeah.
When we do that.
To be in this image, that's why we call Adam in Hebrew means Adameh le'elyon, which means in Hebrew I resemble the upper source. That's what the word Adam means, that we resemble source. And that's why we also, human beings called Olam Katan. Olam Katan means a small world. And the Zohar actually clearly tells us, teaching us that all creation is within us. The entire creation happens within us as human beings. That's why each and every one human being is the entire universe in a small scale. But nevertheless, it's the entire universe within each and every one of us. All the forces exist within us. Imagine what a revelation is to understand that all the potential of creation exists within us. Should we choose to strengthen this connection into this realization and awareness. And therefore, we should seek the reward for inner attainment within, not looking for the reward outside. And the external reality should only be the means to help us in our inner attainment and not to be the final goal. We're not here to eliminate external desires, to have good food, to have a great life, abundance, wealth, all those wonderful things, but use them as a vehicle to stimulate our inner reality, not as to be the final goal. We said it a few times, but I want to repeat that's very important. So the true reward we should strive to receive is not the light, because this is another kind of level to this understanding, because people say, we're all here to receive the light. But if you compare, like if you meet a person, the person gives you a gift. So the real understanding that the Zohar is teaching us, don't seek the light, but connect to the giver of the light. Which means don't be attached to the gift.
Yes.
Be attached to the giver of the gift.
Be grateful to the giver.
To the giver, because we don't want the light. You can define the light in many different ways. Many people have different definitions, made movies about it, beautiful presentations on YouTube, films, etc. We want the light. Don't get attached to the light. Get attached to the giver of the light. Like if somebody gives you the gift, love the giver of the gift, not the gift itself. Even receiving gifts in Kabbalah, this is another conversation. It's something very tricky.
Yeah,
Another teaching.
One of the teachers said,
it says,
don't
you know,
even receive gifts.
Unless it's somebody who really loves you. Because
Yeah.
when somebody who really loves you gives you a gift, it comes from a purity of connecting to you. Like,
And
if
have
I give you
appreciation.
flowers, it's not I give you flowers because giving flowers to you makes me love you more. I give you flowers because I love you. And you don't feel attached to the flowers. You have you are more, for each and every one of us in a relationship. The more important thing is who gives you the gift, not the gift itself.
Well, sure, I'm not attached to the flowers. I appreciate you.
Exactly,
giving me
not
flowers.
attached, but it's like more the appreciation is the giver of the gift, not the gift itself. The same is about our connection to Source. When we seek that light or fulfillment, don't get stuck with the light, but connect to the giver of the light, or
Which
to
is the
cultivate
creator.
the creator, Source, whatever you want to call it, Hashem, Allah, whatever you want to call it, many names. So how much?
When we start the Zohar.
Yeah, a couple minutes. We're gonna start. So I want to another few things before I go to the Zohar.
9:25.
Okay, the Zohar talks about three levels of awe of Source, which is very important to mention. The first one is we act out of fear of pain, punishment, retribution, or loss, physical loss or financial loss, etc. Or we feel that the karma gonna get us, and this is one way to cultivate. Like some people, they have this relationship of fear from Source, because if they don't do certain things, they're gonna get retribution. So they act out of fear, and that's very selfish way to act, and that's very religious way to act. But nevertheless, a lot of people, they follow that, say you have to be afraid of God because God's gonna get you.
Well,
He's gonna
we all grew up like that. We all been raised.
Some
like
of us,
that.
yeah. The second one is act out of fear in the afterlife. So it's not enough to be afraid in this life. Some teachings tell you, if you don't act well this life,
Yeah.
the next lifetime you're going to hell, you're going to get burnt, etc. That's also very religious and very selfish, because you only act because you're afraid on your own ass. Excuse me for my English. The third one is we actually act out of awe. We act out of respect, and we act out of appreciation. This is the way the Zohar is teaching us, and that's how we want to cultivate true connection of love and mutual respect. It's like if there's a couple and they love each other, they will abstain doing certain things not because they're afraid that the other person is going to find out, or if they're going to get punished in the afterlife, but they maintain those things because they have mutual respect and honor towards each other. And that's how the kind of relationship the Zohar is teaching us to have with Source, out of respect and appreciation and
Soulmate
honor.
relationship.
Soulmate relationship with Source, yeah. Respect, yeah. So this is really the work that what we learn here as a Kohen is Emunah Gdola Mehadat, which brings me to a very important point, which means faith or certainty is above knowledge. We all know the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. They were told not to eat from the tree of knowledge, and they ate from it. And we know it's not a literal tree. We're going to understand what it means. Now let's distinguish between knowledge to faith. Again, faith, certainty, emunah, trust. Okay, knowledge, which in Hebrew calls yedi'ah. Now knowledge is built on steps. If I learned A level of information, and then I learned B, then I can move to level C. Because level C, it depends on my knowledge of level B and A. Basically, it's built on top of each other. In other words, it's linear. It's based on time. So if you study mathematics, you have to first of all finish certain high school, then you go to the BA, then you do masters, then PhD, etc. So that's how knowledge is built. It's linear. Now, faith, it's not linear. Faith, each time is completely new. Because what means, like, if yesterday I had faith and certainty, it doesn't mean I'm going to have it today.
Yeah.
I have to create it right now.
Right.
Now. Every moment is new. And what did this depend? It depends on my inner attributes. So our connection with faith and certainty, it's beyond time. So that's so that gives you the hint what means that Adam and Eve ate from the apple of the tree of knowledge, apple or whatever it was. They ate from the fruit. The tree of knowledge is the fruit of limitation of time, but also very limited perception of reality based on what you learned in the past. Because if you said, oh, but yesterday I only knew this and therefore I am, that limits your accessibility to all there is. Does it make sense?
Something that we need to...
Okay, let it just fly with it. Okay.
Usually I fly.
Fly very well. So like you said, if I had faith today, or if I had faith yesterday, doesn't mean I'm going to have faith today, or certainty. I have to cultivate it. That's why I say it requires maintenance. Like if you study math, or you learn bicycle, you don't have to keep practicing because it's with you. You know? So if you learn to ride bicycle, even after 20 years you didn't touch bicycle, you still remember it because it's based on knowledge. Also experience, but it's built in steps. Even more so with other things like mathematics. Even if you don't practice, it's within you because you acquired it in steps. But faith and certainty doesn't work this way. Doesn't matter how much you practice yesterday, today is a new day. And you have to keep cultivating that.
You can lose it anytime.
Exactly. You can lose it anytime. So we are tested most when things are concealed. When we don't get things what we want. When the reality does not appear the way we want it to appear. That's when everything is... that's when we are being tested. Tested for what? For the purpose to go to the next level. It's like when you study, again, martial arts. Before you go to the next level, the next belt, you have to go through a test. The same thing with our attainment in this reality. There's levels that we attain. These are not linear levels, but they're actually, we're jumping into different dimensions.
So interesting when you say, you are going through martial art, exercising every day, and then you have to go through test to achieve, white belt and then brown belt and blue and black, right? So you have to, each and every level you want to go upper and upper, you have to go through test. This is really amazing. This is what's happening when we start studying Zohar or spirituality, mostly Zohar, because it's happened to me many times. I noticed that each and every time I went deeper, I went through some tests, and in the beginning I was saying, what's happening? I'm not supposed to go through this. See, I'm not supposed to go through this because I am, study Zohar, However, now I know I just went for the test to achieve next level and then next level, and it's more and more and more. Each and every time it's harder.
I wouldn't say it's harder, but when you have the more tools, it's more like you are equipped to deal with the next level. It doesn't have to be harder. Like we can say, harder is a certain language that you want to be maybe careful, but you can be a certain level of challenge. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, it's so important because when people talk about sports, achieving sports, people is exercise, going to Olympics. Is there any Olympic people who are exercising and you don't want to go to the Olympics, right? You cannot do that. You cannot say people you exercise but you cannot go for Olympics because this is the goal.
Yeah.
However, people need to understand, if you study spirituality, mostly Kabbalah, Zohar, many other spiritualities, it's like going to the Olympics of the spiritual, if you talk about that. See?
Yeah.
And then if it's challenging time, if it's hard time, if we say, okay, I'm going for test because I want to achieve higher level, it's different. It feels like, wow, okay. It's not
training. I'm
training to go for the next level.
Yeah.
For going for the next level, I have to go through test.
And the training, yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So that's when we are going through the challenges. This is when things are not revealed to us. This is when we're actually been fine-tuning ourselves to the next level, and that's how we cultivate true desire. Because when you don't have things the way you want them to be, that's when you start to cultivate bigger desire. Because the universe, why it puts you through a test? Because he wants you to have a bigger desire.
Well, people mostly quit, but yeah, I understand.
I would say mostly quit, but some people do, some people don't. But ideally, everybody who's watching this video, you don't quit.
Never.
You cultivate a bigger desire because the universe wants to give you more. So the universe puts you through this test so you can ask for more because it wants to give you more. And when you ask for more, then you can build a vessel. Because if you until now you made a certain level of income and you were very content and happy with it, you don't want much more. Maybe you're happy with it, but maybe the universe is taking something from you because he wants you not to have the same amount of income. He wants you to have more, so you can draw more and you can give more and you can make more. You can do much more sustenance with that. Whatever your line of work is, whatever shape or form you live in this reality, but if something is not happening exactly as you want it to be right now, take it as an opportunity to evaluate your your wants.
Maybe you ask too small. Maybe you have to ask.
Always you ask for small. Because if you not get what you want, means the universe wants to give you more.
Yes.
That's how we, as Kabbalists, will learn that it's always about cultivating bigger desire.
Yeah.
Very important. This is really huge information, because everybody is at a certain level. There's something that they want. Maybe it's not manifesting, but don't look at it as you're getting the bad part of the deal. Look at it as the universe wants to give you something bigger. He wants you to ask for more, bigger kli, bigger ratzon. Bigger ratzon, more bigger you connect to the Kohen, more benevolence. There's more you can share. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is how we actually get closer to fulfilling our potential. Now, our emunah is being born again each and every day. That's how we cultivate the emunah each and every day. Every morning you wake up, you do whatever action of maintenance you do, your meditation, your prayers, your time in nature, whatever you do, to recalibrate your emunah each and every day. Because if you take it too obviously, you are diminishing your vessel. And even if you have a high vessel, it doesn't guarantee that you're not going to fall down from that. You know, you can also lose what you attain if you don't maintain the work on a daily basis. So I have a weekly exercise too, but I'm gonna get that at the end. I want to give you something to kind of to do, to practice what we'll be discussing. But let's go to the Zohar. So let's go start with verse number 2 and 3. אמור על הכהנים בני אהרון, מה טעמה? אחרי בני אהרון, וכילה ידענה דבני אהרון ינהו. אלא בני אהרון ולא בני לוי. דאהרון דהו שירותה דכל כהני דעלמה. דבי יתראי קודשא בריחו מקולה. בגין למעבד שלמה בעלמה. ובגין דאהרון ארכוי סליקו לי להי. דכל יומוי דאהרון הווה משתדל לסגאה. שלמה בעלמה. ובגין דארכוי כך סליק לי קודשא בריחו להי. למעל שלמה בפמליה דלעילה. ובגין כך אמור אל הכהנים בני אהרון. Translation. Speak to the priests, the sons of Aharon. He asks, what is the reason it is written here, the sons of Aharon? Do I not know they are the sons of Aharon? And he answers, this teaches us they are the sons of Aharon rather than the sons of Levi, because Aharon is the first of all the priests. For it is him that the Holy One, blessed be he, had chosen above everyone, as so to make peace in the world, and because Aharon's practices have brought him up to this. For Aharon strove throughout his life to increase peace in the world. That's the essence of a Kohen, somebody who wants to create peace and benevolence in the world. That's the essence, the nature of that characteristics. Since these were his ways, the Holy One, blessed be he, raised him to priesthood, to introduce peace among the celestial retinue. For through his worship he brings about the union of the Holy One, blessed be he, and his Shekhinah. Shekhinah being the vessel, the world, the physicality, which brings peace throughout the worlds. Hence, speak to the priests, the sons of Aaron. When we talk about the sons of Aaron, it's again code name. Banim means sons means banim. Concept word bina, the understanding of the right column. And we talk about, like we said earlier, the Levites are the left column. So it's emphasizing our connection to the right, the priest understanding. Let's go to verse number 3. אמור אל הכהנים בני אהרון ואמרת אליהם, רבי יהודה פתח, מה רב טובך אשר צפנת ליראיך וגומר? מה רב טובך? כמה ילאה ויקרה, ההוא נהורה ילאה דיקראי טוב. דכתיב וירא אלוהים את האור כי טוב, ודהו אור הגנוז. דבי אבד קודשא בריחו תו בעלמה, ולמה נעלי בכל יומה, בגין דבי מתקיים עלמה וקיים עלי. אשר צפנת ליראיך, דתנן נהורה ילאה אבד קודשא בריחו כד ברא עלמה, וגניז לי לצדיקיה לזמנה דעתי, ההד אשר צפנת ליראיך. Translation. Speak to the priests, the sons of Aharon, and say to them, Rabbi Yehuda opened with the verse, "Oh, how great is your goodness, which you have laid up for those who have all to you. Oh, how great is your goodness, how superior and precious is that lofty light which is called good. As written, and Elohim saw the light that it was good," from the Genesis, Bereshit. "This is the treasured light which the Holy One, blessed be He, does good in the world. He does not withhold it in any day, and the world is maintained and supported by it, which you have laid up for those who have all to you. For we have learned that the Holy One, blessed be He, made it lofty light when He created the world, and treasured it for the righteous for the future to come. This is the meaning of which you have laid up for those who have awe to you, or fear, which you have performed for those who trust you." Trust in the word emunah. Very, very powerful verse. It talks about the concealed light. There's a term in Kabbalah called Or Haganuz. Or Haganuz means concealed light. We know that there is physical light that is depending on a light that hitting an object. And then what we see is the bouncing of the light that we perceive in our physical eyes. That's physical light. But we know this light is only a small portion, or even like 0.01% of what we learn in Kabbalah, the highest light, or the light source of Creator. Now, the Or Ganuz, the concealed light, it's like, imagine that you have a code, or like a passcode to a concealed treasure. Like you have some kind of account, there's a lot of money in this account, but in order for you to access this account, you need the code. So this concealed light exists in this reality, but it's not given to anybody. You have to earn that, and you have to work to receive this code. To reveal that, because it's not something that is just given to you without putting an effort. So if you're relying,
to burn the person. It's
will
like
burn.
touching
The electric socket.
Yes,
Yeah.
without
being prepared.
Yeah, no, בלי הכיסוי שלו.
Without the cover.
Yeah.
So, and this concealed light is that it's something that is concealed. It says in the Zohar from the wicked individuals. Why it says wicked? Wicked means selfish, which gives us the hint what kind of attribute you need to cultivate to connect, not to be wicked, which means to be a good person or sharing person. And how do you reveal this light? You can connect to it by uplifting ourselves, like we learned earlier, by the Kohen. Why we talk a lot about the Kohen, about the right column? Because now it's the time of strong judgments in this time of the Omer, until I think it's the last day of May. I think that's the last day of the Omer. Is the last day of give and take, something around that time. So this particular period of time, there's a lot of strong left column energy, and how we transmute that, we connect to the right column energy, like we learned earlier. But also by doing this, you are actually revealing very powerful light by your awareness that is expressed through actions as well. Okay, so when we are, if we are on the opposite, when we are angry, low frequency, or like resentment, judgment, etc., we'll lose contact with this light. So, like we said earlier, cultivating the awareness, like if we are in very low vibration, first of all, acknowledge that and be aware of that. The awareness is the first step of rising above it. But if you're not aware, you just dwell in it, there's very little likelihood that we're actually going to overcome it. Okay? So when we know that it exists, the concealed light exists, we can strive to connect to it and use it wisely. It's not just light that is just great bliss, etc., but it's actually very powerful energy. If you study the chronicles of Atlantis or other powerful civilizations, they had ability to connect to very almost like unnatural powers. This ability was very ancient, and then at some point it became concealed because it's been abused. But this light exists all the time. It never went away. Those powers are there. Because you don't see or don't experience it doesn't mean they don't exist. Like if you watch Channel 1, but there's another program going on Channel 10, if you don't see that, doesn't mean it doesn't exist there. The broadcast of the universe is always there, but you have to acquire the code, the password to connect to that. That's the concealed light. And how we do that? By connecting to the priest, the Kohen.
Well, in Atlantis, they didn't use very well the knowledge they had.
Absolutely.
It's destroyed themselves.
Completely, yeah. But again, it's not just the knowledge, but it's actually connected to very high power, very powerful forces in this universe.
Angela says that the Omer ends in the end of month on May 31st.
May 31st. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. In Shavuot. It's Shavuot.
Yeah, Shavuot, yeah.
Thank you.
So remember that the concealed light, the Or HaGanuz, is available to each and every one of us. It's not just for some privileged people, it's for everybody. But the condition to connect to light is to use this, what we've been discussing the last hour and a half. Okay? So let's move forward. How much time we have left, Maya?
It's 20 to 10.
Okay, good. We're in good shape.
Good shape. Very good shape.
Alright, verse number 38. Raya Memena. This is actually taught directly by Moses. כי אם בתולה מעמה ויקח אישה, פתח רע מהימנה ואמר, פיקודה דה למיסב כהנה רבה בתולתה, ההד אלמנה וגרושה וחללה זונה, את אלה לא ייקח, כי אם בתולה מעמה ויקח אישה. ועמי בעינן דלה ייסב אלא בתולתה, בלה פגימו. אלא יתתה היא כוס דברכה, טעמו פגמו. וכהנה דקריב קורבנה אדוני, בעד ילהווה איהו שלים, בלה פגימו, שלים בעברוי בלה פגימו, דמומין פסלין וכהניה, שלים בגופי, שלים בנוקבי, לקיימה בי, כולך יפה רעייתי ומום אין בך. Translation. But he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. Now, we're not talking about physical, we're going to explain what's the code name of Isha, a woman, wife. It's a code name. The beautiful shepherd opened and said, this commands the high priest to marry a virgin, as said, a widow, or a divorced woman, or a profaned, or harlot. This shall be not he not take, but he shall take a virgin of his own people to wife. He asks, why is it necessary for him to marry only an unblemished virgin? And answers, a woman is a cup of blessing, which if tasted is blemished, that is, it alludes to malchut, called a cup of blessing. A priest who offers a sacrifice before Hashem must be a whole and unblemished in limbs, because blemishes make priests unfit. He should be wholesome in body, whole in his wife, as to fulfill in him the verse, you are all fair, my love, there is no blemish in you. So, the code name of Isha, woman, it represents our desire, a vessel. We know that physical reality is compared to a woman. So when we talk about a woman, it talks about the harlot, etc. There are different levels of desire that we have. And the Kohen is the code name of our benevolence. In other words, when we marry between our benevolence and our wants, and what we said earlier, when we evaluate our wants, when our wants are pure, coming from the right place, then our benevolence and our connection with what we want to, or what we want to impact in this world, hashpia, that's the ideal situation. We're not talking about here marital laws between priests and women. It's all codes. So just remember, when we talk about Isha, woman, it's about our desire. It's a vessel, what we want. How big is, like we said, a woman is a cup of blessing, which means the cup is a vessel. How much you want to receive, it defines the vessel that can contain all the goodness. So that's what it is talking about. Okay? So let's continue. Verse number 60. והיה שבעת ימים תחת אמו בגין להתיישבה בי ההוא חילה והתקיים בי. ובמה התקיים בי? כד ישרי עלי שבת חד ואילה יתקיים. ולבטר דהתקיים בי ההוא חילה כתיב ירצה לקורבן אישה לאדוני בקיומה דשבת חד דעבר עלי. Translation. Then it shall be 7 days under his mother, in order for that force appointed over it to settle upon it and exist in it. It will exist in it when the Shabbat has rested on it. Otherwise, it does not stay, for people only exist through the light of Shabbat. As written, and by the seventh day Elohim ended his work, which he had done, from the book of Bereshit, Genesis. Later, when this force exists in it, it is written, it shall be accepted for an offering made by fire to Hashem, through the existence of the one Shabbat it experienced. Translation. So explanation actually. So when we talk about this, talks about the system of the 7 and the system of the 8. We know that we live in the system of the 7 days a week, etc. And we talk about the number 8. Number 8 always pertains to the power that governs physical reality. Like we have 7 days, These are the forces of nature. Shabbat, when we connect to the energy of Shabbat, again, it's nothing have to do with you are Jewish or not Jewish. Today is Tuesday. Doesn't matter what religion you are. And Saturday, Shabbat is going to be Friday night, and the Saturday night is Shabbat. Doesn't matter what religion you are. The whole point is there are certain cycles of energy that happens. This system was designed not as an absolute system, but it was designed for us to master physical reality. It's our kind of our training ground. Okay? Now, the Kohen, or what we call the right column, is the one within us who can tap into higher awareness of higher light and bring it into this world. When we are understanding the power of Shabbat, we understand that the systems of 7 is not absolute. When we tap to those forces, like we talked about earlier, the Oreganus, the concealed light, it's a much, much higher realm of reality than what we perceive with our physical senses. We may not see that right now, but we know that some people have the re'iyah, the real vision, that they see beyond physicality. That's the kind of attainment is available to each and every one of us if we use the tools and reconnect. Now we know also Shabbat is our portal to the higher realms. Shabbat belongs to the Olam HaAtzilut. We know that we have 3 worlds that exist here. We have the Olam HaAsiyah, which is the physical reality. This is the Olam HaAsiyah. Above Olam HaAsiyah, we have the Olam Yetzirah. The Olam Yetzirah is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the Olam Yetzirah. Above it, we will have the Olam Bria. That's the 3rd levels. The 3 Sefirot is Olam Bria. And above it, it's called Olam HaAtzilut. So Shabbat belongs to Olam HaAtzilut. It's a very, very high realm. It has nothing to do with physicality. The reason we have this because we can receive sustenance on a weekly basis from this realm. If we use it, we connect to it. We have studied that on Shabbat we receive a boost to the soul, Neshama Yetera. There's a lot of secrets of energy that we can derive from the power of Shabbat. So, and also when we talk about the system of the 7, we know that the period of the Omer is composed of 7 weeks. 7 multiplied by 7 is 49. Plus the day of Pesach is 50 days. Now, we know that there's a term in Kabbalah called the 50 gates of purity, the 50 gates of impurity. The reason the Israelites, they were pulled out of Egypt because they reached the level of 49th day of impurity, When we reach that level, if we go another level, we're done. There is no way back. Okay? So the reason we're going through those 49 days, so we can purify ourselves. Now the interesting thing is, if you take 50 days, and you know that each one of them, it have to go through a cycle of 8, right? 7 days and then the 8th day. If you multiply 50 by 8, you get 400 days. Now 400 days are more than a year, which means even if you strive really hard to be impure in this reality, when we have Pesach, ideally you connect to Pesach, you can actually purify yourself. If you don't do that, so there's nothing we can do about it. But if you, let's say you're going through some process, very negative process, within 1 year you always have the opportunity to purify yourself. Yeah. Even more so every Shabbat. So there is always safeguard mechanism in this reality to make sure that we're not deriving from the path. Unless we really insist, we can go to a very negative place if you really insist. But we have so many safeguards, and we're so blessed to have this opportunity to tap into them to help us, to recalibrate ourselves, to remove negativity. So it's a wonderful reminder. So use the energy of Shabbat. It's really wonderful when you connect to that, not from a religious place, but really understanding the cycle, how it works. Let's go to verse number 74. ותנינן בעובדה דלתתה, יתאר עובדה דללה, אי ברנש עבד עובדה לתתה, כדקה יאות, הכי יתאר חילה, כדקה יאות לאלה. עבד ברנש חסד בעלמה, יתאר חסד לאלה, ושערי בהוא יומה, ויתעתר בגיני, ויתדבר ברנש לרחמי לתתה. יתאר רחמי על ההוא יומה, ויתעתר ברחמי בגיני. וכדן ההוא יומה כאם, עלי למהווה apotropa beginei b'sha'ata de'tzarich le. Translation: we learned that an action below awakens an action above. If a person performs a worthy action below, the force above also awakens. As above, so below, or the vice versa. If a person does kindness in this world, kindness awakens above and dwells on that day. which is crowned with it for his or her sake. If a person acts mercifully below, he arouses mercy upon that day, which is crowned with mercy for that person. That day then stands to protect this person in his time of need. So this is a very beautiful verse, and we know, like, when we read verse in the Zohar, it's not just intellectual understanding, but there's whatever content I'm reading, it has the energy to help us to attain that very thing I'm reading about. So we're actually also receiving that energetic boost to receive that help to attain those abilities. So when you talk about a day in Hebrew, day is yom. A day, it's not just a time division, but we know a day in Kabbalah, it's an energetic entity. A day is like a third-party energetic entity. How we feed that entity depends on us. We can do acts of goodness, kindness, sharing, and mercy, and the more we do that, the more we awaken above that energy. And the vice versa, if we do negative actions, we attract, God forbid, for ourselves that negativity. So it's a reminder, even more now, the time of the Omer, can be like more negative or left column judgment, to awaken the right column and to do more acts of sharing. It can be even small. I'm going to read for you about those small kinds of small acts. Now, those small or any acts of sharing, they strengthen us and give us protection. Okay, we don't know, we see what calamities or disaster we may have avoided by the good, what we call good karma that we created. It's like an investment. We keep investing in like some kind of energetic bank. So the more we do, the more we have, and the more we help others as well. And if you don't have an opportunity on a daily basis of an act of sharing, even sometimes I look for people that just intuitively I see somebody writing something, a post on Facebook, and then I can write something to them that actually will help them, some advice from my experience, anything that I always look for those opportunities, because there's always something, each and every one of us, we can help another person. Always. So if you don't have, Facebook is a great place to find those opportunities. Not from a place of being right or to patronize other people, but from a place like you can find opportunity where you can be a source of help of another person, even by just advice. Sometimes just writing to that person, I believe in you, or something. If you don't have on a daily basis opportunities, find them. Maybe it's your neighbor, your parents, your spouse, anybody. Always look for those opportunities. Okay, so let's continue.
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes, wow. All right, we have a little bit more than 5 minutes. But...
Well.
Okay, verse number 129. פתחי לי פתחה בחידודה דמחתה ואנה אבטח לך תראין אילאין פתחי לי אחותי דה פתחה לעלה לי בחו דלה יעלון לגבי בניי אל הבח אנט הוא פתחה לעלה לי בח אי אנט לה תפתח פתחך האנה סגיר דלה ישכחון לי בגין כך פתחי לי ודאי ועל דה אמר דוד כד באה לעלה למלכה אמר פתחו לי שערי צדק אבוא בם אודיה זה השער להשם דהו פתחה ודאי לעלה למלכה זה השער לאדוני להשכחה לי ולהתדבקה בי ואל דה פתחי לי אחותי רעייתי שראשי וגומר בגין להזדווגה עמך ולמהווה עמך בשלם דעלמין. Translation: Open to me, from the book of Song of Songs, King Solomon, means open to me an opening as thin as a needle, and I shall open to you the celestial gates. Open to me, my sister, since the opening to come into me is within you. So my children shall enter only through you. Unless you open your opening, I am closed off and cannot be found. Hence open to me assuredly. Therefore, when King David wished to come to the king, he would say to the source, it means, he would say, open to me the gates of righteousness. I will go in to them and I will praise Yah. This is the gate of Hashem. This, the gates of righteousness, which is Malchut, is an opening through which to come into the king. This is the gate to Hashem, to find him and cleave to him. Hence, open to me, my sister, my love, for my head is filled with dew, to unite with you and be at peace with you forever. This verse is about the greatness of small actions. It says you can do a small action like a needle, but this small action can open to you huge gates. I want to give the example of Tony Robbins because he was on his last, like, there's a great story when he was like on his last money. He went to a restaurant, and that was his money to have dinner. But he saw this little boy who was dressed up, and he took his mother for her birthday, but he didn't have money, and he gave him his money, and it filled him with so much joy to see the boy is buying dinner for his mother. And as soon as he got home, he received a big check in the mail that somebody was supposed to send him a long time ago. But this particular action opened to him something profound. So you never know what kind of small action. Sometimes it can be like very inconvenient action, but when you do it with your heart, with the desire to help somebody else, it will open you something tremendous. It's a beautiful, beautiful. I love this story. Tony Robbins shared that. It's an incredible story. So many times we're tested when things are challenging, like this story of Tony Robbins. When things are challenging, sometimes we're tested. And he passed this test with success. Hopefully we can all pass those tests with success, and to open us these huge floodgates of blessings. I wish that to all of us.
Yeah, he trusted his heart, not his mind.
Exactly.
Because mind said, I don't have money, but the heart said, oh my goodness, it's a beautiful boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Zohar is teaching us is the fastest way to get out of a dark place is to doing the smallest acts of sharing for somebody else. You can do something like give a quarter to somebody who asks you, maybe they don't have money. Something small can open you something profound. It's a big wisdom here. Great reminder. Let's continue. A couple more. Verse 178. פיקודה בתרדה למעבד חג שבועות, דכתיב ועשית חג שבועות לאדוני אלוהיך. שבועות. על דעלו ישראל לרזה דחמשין יומין, דינון 7 שבועות. ובקורבנה דעומר התבטל יצר הרע, דערכת מאשת חיל, וחד תמן לה התקרב מתדבקין ישראל, בקודשא בריחו, והתבטל מעילה ומיתתה. Translation. The following precept is to celebrate the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot means weeks. Translation. As written, and you shall keep the feast of weeks to Hashem your Elohim. It is called Shavuot, literally weeks, since Israel have entered the secret of the 50th day. After 49th day, 7 multiplied by 7, the 50th day is what we call the 50th gate of wisdom, of purity. Since Israel have entered the secret of the 50th day, which is 7 weeks. That means the 50th day alone includes 7 weeks, being the 50th gate. Through the offering of the Omer, or the counting of the Omer, the barley offering, the evil inclination, which is the wife of the harlotry, is voided, fleeing the woman of valor. And when the wife of harlotry does not approach the woman of valor, Israel cleave to the Holy One, blessed be He, in the secret of the 7 weeks, and the evil inclination is voided from above and from below, not having a grasp on Zeir Anpin and Malchut. So the process that we're going through, that 7 weeks, it's a process of not only purification, but it's a power, gives us power to subdue what we call the evil inclination. That's really the essence of this process. So one of the things we'll learn from this verse is that when the left column energy is strong, like in those days, first of all, we're advised to stay low, not engage in too unnecessary conflicts. In other words, don't awaken more judgments. Avoid those judgments and use more restriction. More restriction means more patience, more mercy, and more compassion. Now, tomorrow is the full moon of Taurus in Scorpio. So, being a Scorpio myself, I can tell you that some of us may have a little bit more of a tendency to jump and to start a fire and get into conflicts and to go and like be a little bit out of restriction, to be like very kind of warlike. So this is tomorrow is the opportunity to use this energy for transformation. So this is especially now in the times of the Omer, we want to be able to use the restriction. It's a very powerful tool to help us to transmute and transform. Okay? Like we say, necessity is the mother of invention, and the necessity right now is to be more compassionate, more patient, more restrictive, to use those forces. A couple more. We're going to go a little bit over time. It's okay. Verses number 260 and 261. 260 actually have 2 parts, or if we're going to go. What time is it now, Maya?
It's already 10.
10. Okay, a couple more. This is going to be shorter. Verse number 320. Ish ki kalel Elohav v'nasah chet'o רבי יצחק פתח, שמע עמי והעידה בך ישראל, אם תשמע לי, לא יהיה בך אל זר, ולא תשתחווה אל נחר. כיוון דכתיב לא יהיה בך אל זר, מאי ולא תשתחווה אל נחר, אלא לא יהיה בך אל זר, דלה יעול ברנש ליצר הרע בגבי, דכל מן דעתי להתחברה בי. אל זר שהיה בגבי, דה כד התחבר ברנש בי מיד עתי לעברה על פתגמי אורייתה. עתי לעברה על מהמנותה דשמה קדישה, ועתי לבטר למסגד לתעוון אחרן. ועל דכתיב לא יהיה בך אל זר, כיוון דלה יהיה בך אל זר, לה תיתה למסגד לתעוון אחרן. ולמעבר על מהמנותה דשמה קדישה, ההד ולא תשתחווה לאל נחר, ומהמנותה בישה דברנש דהו. Translation: Whoever curses his Elohim shall bear his sin. From the book of Vayikra. Rabbi Yitzchak opened it with, Hear, O my people, and I will testify against you. O Israel, if you shall hearken to me, there shall be no strange El among you, nor shall you worship any foreign El, any strange god or idol worship. He asks, since it is written, there shall be no strange El among you, what is meant by, nor shall you worship any foreign El? And he answers, there shall be no strange El among you means one must not allow the evil inclination to enter inside himself. For whoever comes to join it, the foreign or the evil inclination dwells within that person. For when a person joins it, he promptly comes to transgress the words of the Torah and transgress the faith in the holy name. Then he comes to bow before a foreign god, and therefore it says, there shall be no strange god among you. If you will have no strange god among you, you shall not come to bow to a strange god or transgress the faith in the holy name. This is the meaning of, nor shall you worship any foreign god, which is man's evil faith or evil inclination. So this verse gives us the power to help us to overcome our own evil inclination. Again, when I say evil inclination, is being selfish. Okay, that's really the essence of being evil in Kabbalah. Ratzon atzmi, or rasha, ratzon shel atzmi. So this section talks about the technicality of how we give power to the evil inclination. The way we give power is when we are self-absorbed, when we're in our selfish, like when we say, I cannot take it anymore, right? It's like, stop taking, start giving, right? Very simple. So selfish actions like being self-absorbed, being depressed, being judgmental towards our, like we said earlier, it's much easier for us to be in those negative because it doesn't require much effort to be angry or judge other people, right? It's very easy, even natural sometimes. So elevating ourselves from those low vibrations is the way for us to rise above our own evil inclination and to not allow it to dwell within ourselves, okay? Like anger, etc. And when we say to learn to observe your thoughts, also when you do that, you're actually cutting the cord from the evil inclination when you start to be aware of that, okay? So last one, this is very important. I want to read this one because it talks about the tree of life. Okay, last one for today. ותראה האישה כי טוב העץ למאכל, וכי תאווה הוא לעיניים וגומר, תחזה, דהה בני נשה לה ידעין ולה מסתכלין ולה משגיחין בשעתה, דברה קודש בריחו לאדם, והוקיר לה בהכירו ילאה. באה מיני להתדבקה בי, בגין דשתכח יחידי, ובליבה יחידי, ובאתר דדבקותה יחידה. דלה ישתנה ולה יתהפך לעלמין, בההו קישורה ודמהמנותה יחידה. דחולה בי יתקשב, הדהו דכתיב ועץ החיים בתוך הגן. Translation. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes. Come and see, people do not know, observe, or pay attention that when the Holy One, blessed be He, created Adam and honored him with the supernal glory, He asked him to cleave to Him, so that he will be unique, of a single heart, in a place of single devotion, that he will never change or turn, but be in the bond of the unique faith to which everything is attached. This is the secret of the tree of life, also in the midst of the garden, namely Zeir Anpin, called the tree of life, so that he will be attached to it as it has not the duality of good and evil. So this verse is very important because it explains a lot of misconceptions about the story of Adam and Eve. We're not talking here about actual tree. When we talk about Zeir Anpin, when we talk about the connection to Zeir Anpin, is the connection of physicality to Zeir Anpin, which comprises together the system of the seven. Zeir Anpin are those 6 levels above Malchut. So our connection to the tree of life is a connection to the upper worlds. Now, what's the opposite of that, of the negative example? When you talk about the woman, who is the woman in the story and who is the Adam? The woman is, like we said earlier, is our desire to receive. So we said when the woman convinced or the woman tasted from the fruit, it means our desire is presented by the woman. The Adam is the code name for the force of receiving for the sake of sharing. So those two forces are within us. It's not about physical woman, physical man. Okay, these are code names. Now, when you talk about the duality, duality means high and by. So when you talk about the Adam and Eve connecting to the tree of knowledge, like we said earlier, tree of knowledge is the connection of the learning things from a place of what we see with our physical senses. It's this connection for what we perceive with our faith. Okay? Because we said earlier, faith is something we have to cultivate on a daily basis. So the disconnection from source is basically just perceive reality with what we see with our physical senses. Basically falling into our animal nature in most basic terms. And we earlier spoke about the comparison between faith versus knowledge. Faith is endless, knowledge is linear. Okay? So a couple of things is 2 things before I end. I want you to just use, first of all, the energy of the Zohar. Like we said, the Zohar is a connection to Binah. So one of the most effective tools to rise above the physicality from the tree of knowledge is to use the Zohar, because it's your direct portal to the upper worlds. Whether you understand it or don't understand it, if you take in baby steps, it's going to start to reveal to you that if you have the desire for that. That's one thing. The second thing is to use the prayer of Ana Bekoach. The prayer of Ana Bekoach is a tool that you can do many times a day that helps you to rise above physicality. That's why it has 7 lines. Each one pertains to one level of reality, the system of the 7. So I think that's quite a lot for today. Thank you so much for...
You had some homeworks for us today.
Yes, I do have a little of assignment for you. Yes, thank you for reminding me. I usually don't give, but today I thought it's going to be very helpful to give it. So the assignment is, I want you to observe your mundane actions each and every day. Just make a list, and make a list of 10 actions. Just choose any random 10 actions that you do on a daily basis, and observe those actions. And once you've written down those actions, ask yourself, what was the purpose behind each and every action? Like, even if you eat, why did you eat, for what purpose, etc. And write down what was your goal behind them. Like, even if you ate, you went for a walk, whatever it is, write what was the purpose behind them. Now, after a week, I want you to do the same, write the same actions, and define the inner goals that you want to attain, and to act according to those inner goals. In other words, if you did that particular action last week, like give example, eating food. Kabbalah said, some people say I eat because I'm hungry. The Kabbalah said, no, I eat because I used the opportunity to enjoy the blessing on the food. It's a completely different mindset. Even in the most mundane physical actions. Why I'm sharing this with you? Because I want to invite you to examine your progress on what we learn by evaluating what kind of goals you have behind everything that you do. It's very important. So you are not just changing your actions. You're doing the same actions, but you're only recalibrating the purpose behind your actions. Just choose any 10 actions and just see how that works for you. Okay? So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I would really appreciate if you guys would like to make a contribution so we can continue spreading these teachings of the Zohar. We're actually planning a new location that's going to unfold very soon. If you want to make a donation, you can do that on the Mount Shasta Zohar page on Facebook. There's a donate button, and whatever your heart calls you to donate, we'll be very grateful. Thank you so much for watching. This is going to be available on my wall and also on the Mount Shasta page on Facebook and also on YouTube by the end of the week. Thank you so much. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you.
You're welcome.